Barcelona's preseason in 2025 has officially come to an end after the win over Como yesterday in the famous, prestigious, and amazing Joan Gamper Trophy game. Barca, of course, also partook in the Asia Tour in the preseason and got 3 wins out of a possible 3 there. So 4 wins out of a possible 4 in the preseason. We could not ask for much more from Hansi Flick and the squad. I was super pleased with what I saw in the preseason, and I hope you guys were as well. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my 7 takeaways from Barca's preseason as a whole. Obviously, I did a match review after every single game in the preseason, but in the match reviews, I mostly just focus on what happens on the pitch and what we saw in that specific game. In this video, we're kind of taking like a 30,000-foot view of the whole preseason and just talking about things that stood out to me. You guys can let me know what things stood out to you in the comment section. I want to hear it. Please let me know. But yeah, man, you guys know today we have a PowerPoint. I just recently found out, by the way, that you could use a single image to be the background of your entire PowerPoint. I did not know this. I think the people over at Google Slides were hiding it from me because this is a game changer for me. This is a game changer for me. If you thought my PowerPoints were good before, they're only going to get better. I have Gerard Martin as the opening picture of this PowerPoint, but not just like Gerard Martin in the corner. No, he takes up the whole slide, but this is Gerard Martin. Look at his face. It's right there. I'm literally next to Gerard Martin. Don't say we look alike, please, because I will actually cry. I will actually cry. But anyway, like I said, PowerPoint today. I am super excited for this. I hope you guys are as well. Like I said, let me know your takeaways from the preseason down below too. Obviously, elephant in the room, okay? Yes, I have a 13-inch penis. No, I'm kidding. That's not the elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. I do always talk about how preseason, we shouldn't make too many, we shouldn't come to conclusions from preseason. You shouldn't come to conclusions, but there are certain things you can see in the preseason that can give you some indications of what's going to happen in the actual season. So that's what we're going to do today. Just things that I saw that I think are going to be trends for the actual season for Barca. So yeah, just wanted to get that out there. But anyway, my first takeaway from Barca's preseason is the new signings looked amazing. The new signings looked really, really good. All 3 of them. All 3 of the marquee signings pictured right here, Marcus Rashford, Joan Garcia, and Rooney Barc, all 3 did different things that impressed me a lot. And I think they all had very good moments throughout the whole preseason. First up, Rooney Barc got the least amount of playing time out of the other 2, but I thought that when he played, especially in the Asia Tour, not so much yesterday, I didn't see him that much yesterday, but especially in the Asia Tour, he had some great moments. I think he's very technically gifted. I like the way that he reads the game. I think sometimes he can be a little bit more selfless and not so selfish because he looks to always want to shoot on goal whenever he has the ball, which I like, but I want to see him be a little bit more, I want to see him incorporate his teammates a little bit more when he actually has the ball at his feet, not just look to shoot every time. But that's about the only bad thing I saw from Rooney Barc. Everything else, I was really impressed. And I think this guy's going to be a key piece for this Barca team in the up-and-coming season. Shout out to Deco for scouting this guy and bringing him in. We as Barca fans, we like to pile on Deco and talk bad about him, but when it's time to praise him, I'm more than happy to do so. And with this signing, I think he cooked. And, with Lamine Yamal, we obviously want to keep him rested because he is Barcelona's gem. So with a guy like Rooney Barc, who you could bring in a game, like when Lamine is not playing and you rest Lamine and you bring in Rooney, I think he could do a very solid job. And we saw this preseason. I'm really excited to see what Rooney does throughout the whole season because I think he's going to cook. Joan Garcia, Barca fans have been asking for a goalkeeper for so long, and finally Joan Laporta and Deco, they listened and they got a goalkeeper. And Joan Garcia, man, I thought he looked spectacular throughout the whole preseason. Playing out with his feet, he looked great. He played some great balls yesterday. That pass, that Marcus Rashford assisted Rafina, where he started that move by passing the ball to Rashford. That was a great pass. He also had some great passes as well yesterday. Like his ability to play with his feet, which is something that I was concerned about. He obviously put those doubts to rest, and his shot stopping is one of the best in the world. We saw he stopped a couple shots yesterday. He had a big save yesterday in the second half against Como. So Joan Garcia looked amazing. Marcus Rashford, man, got a goal in the preseason, got an assist, and obviously yesterday we saw him play centrally in place of Lewandowski, who's injured. And I thought he looked really good, man. I made a prediction. In my 5 bold predictions for Barca this season, I said that Marcus Rashford will finish with more goals and assists than Vini and Mbappe. Not combined, but he'll finish with more than both of them. And that's the one that I'm the least confident about because I think Mbappe is going to cook this season, and Vini, he's poised to just go off at any minute because he's been kind of dormant for so long. We know Vini, he's still that guy. So I don't know if I'm confident in that prediction still, but everything I've seen from Marcus Rashford this preseason has given me massive signs of optimism that I think he's gonna thrive under Hansi Flick because I think everybody thrives under Hansi Flick. So Marcus Rashford, Joan Garcia, and Rooney Barc, that's my first takeaway. All 3 of these signings looked really good. They looked very, very good, and I think they're gonna be 3 signings that are impact players right away. And that's the one thing that Barca needed because Barca have La Masia. You can project signings, you don't need them because you have La Masia. If you can get 3 signings that can make an impact right away, that is exactly what this Barca squad needed. And these 3 guys, I think they're going to cook. So that was my first takeaway. The new signings looked amazing. Number 2, Dani Ormo is on thin ice this season. Dani Olmo's on thin ice. I think if Dani Olmo has another season where he's injured and he's kind of inconsistent when he plays, I think Barca should look to sell him and cash in. Now, how much you're going to get for Dani Olmo at that point, I don't know. Barca bought him for upwards of 60 million, so I don't know how much they'll get in return. But I was skeptical of Dani Olmo when Barca first signed him because, first of all, he was injury prone, and that's proven to be a concern since he's been at Barca. And number 2, I always felt like Fermin Lopez was the best. He was the best successor in that role. I thought Barca's next number 10 should have always been Fermin Lopez. And from what we've seen from Fermin Lopez this preseason, he's looked amazing. And I think Fermin is a better player, and I think Fermin is going to be the guy who's going to be the actual starter for Barca once the real games start. Even when Dani Olmo's fit and healthy and ready to go, I think Fermin Lopez is going to take his place in the starting 11 because, again, I believe Fermin Lopez is a better player, and I think a lot of Barca fans agree with me on that. I think Olmo's good. Don't get me wrong. He did a lot of great things for us last season. I'm not throwing him to the curb because he still has that potential. We know how good Dani Olmo can be on his day. We've seen it as Barca fans. He had those moments as a Barca player last year. But I believe Fermin is better. And again, Dani, and you have Pedro Fernandez as well, Dro is what they call him. Dro, who, emerged onto the scene this preseason, who can also be a candidate to play in that number 10 role. So there's a lot of competition in that number 10 role. And at Barcelona, you can never rest. It doesn't matter how established of a player you are. You can never rest because there's always somebody in La Masia, some kid in La Masia who's 16, who's ready to take your place. Or somebody that came from La Masia who's 21 like Fermin Lopez. They're ready to take your place. So, Dani Olmo's on thin ice, man. Injuries, again, he's injured now. He picked up a knock. Inconsistent. To me, he didn't have the best preseason. I think he's on thin ice. I honestly think he's on thin ice. And again, I'm rooting for Dani because I root for every Barca player. But I believe that with what I've seen, even going back to last season and what I've seen from Fermin this preseason, that's one takeaway that I had. That Dani Olmo, he doesn't have much room for error if he wants to keep his starting place on this team. Next up, Barca will again be the best attack in Europe this season. Barca will again be the best attack in Europe this season. Here we have the score lines of every single preseason game. That is an aggregate score of 20 to whatever the fuck that is, 20 to 4. 20 to 4. That's crazy, man. And again, it's preseason against Vissel Kobe and FC Seoul and Dagu FC and Como. That would make sense if Barca weren't scoring this amount of goals last season against good teams. Like if we hadn't seen Barca put 4 and 5 past Madrid and 4 again past Madrid, or 5 past Benfica, or 4 past Dortmund, if we hadn't seen that, then you could say, yeah, it's just preseason. But we saw that last season. We're seeing it now in the preseason. I think this team is going to be the best attack in Europe. I understand PSG have a lethal front line. I get it. Arsenal just added Gyökeres. I was going to say Man United added Sesko and Mbuemo and Cunha, but nobody gives a fuck about them. But anyway, Man United added some players, but they're not on the UCL, so we don't really care. Madrid, of course, Mbappe, Rodrigo, we'll see what happens with him. Maybe he's going to Man City, maybe not, but we'll see what happens with Rodrigo. Vini, of course, Mastantuono, Arda Güler, Gonzalo Garcia, Endrick, they have a good attacking line too, but what other team am I missing? I'm missing a bunch. Liverpool, if they get Isak, and if they obviously have Ekitike and Wirtz, and we saw them cooking yesterday in that Community Shield game. My point is, there's a lot of good front lines in Europe. There's a lot of good attacks in Europe. I think Barca are going to have the best one once again. The way Hansi Flick coaches football, going forward, it's simply mesmerizing. Some of the patterns that Barca play, those third man runs, it's genuinely beautiful. And we saw it again this preseason. This team might concede. The high line might come back to bite us in the ass at some point. It's going to happen this season. I promise you it will. But this team is going to be the best attack. They're going to score goals for fun once again. That is one thing I can guarantee you about this Barca team. There will not be a goal dropped, ever. Ever. So that's one thing that I noticed too. The preseason, seeing the players the way they played, seeing the scores, I think Barca are going to be, again, the best attack in Europe this season. Number 4, Gabi will once again be pivotal to the squad. Gabi had an amazing preseason, one of the standouts of the preseason in my opinion, had the most goals for any Barca player in the Asia Tour, and also in all 4 games, he had the most goals out of any player. And when I saw Gabi play, man, I realized how vital he can be to this Hansi Flick team and to this system now that he's fully healthy and has a year under his belt, actually getting after recovering from that ACL injury he suffered in November of 2023. I think Gabi, what I saw from him really, really impressed me. I was not a critic of Gabi last season because that sounds like I was just going out of my way to shit on him. But I was kind of pointing out that he didn't look like the same player. I was pointing that out. And a lot of people were telling me, hey bro, he's just coming back from injury, just give him time. And I understand that, you know what I mean? But at Barca, you kind of like, we're so used to, players have to come in and they have to produce right away. Gabi, it kind of took him some time to get his feet under him. But now we're seeing, man, this guy's going to be pivotal to the squad. I really believe Gabi. Last year, at one point he was one of the first few players off the bench, but it didn't seem like he got in the game consistently. Now, I think this season he's going to be, he's going to start a bunch of games. I believe he's going to be a starter in a bunch of games, whether Frenkie de Jong is getting rest or Pedri's getting rest, or you want to play Pedri as a number 10 and you want to drop Gabi deeper and play him with Frenkie de Jong. As we saw that one time against Atletico Madrid when Xavi was still the coach, that midfield of Pedri, Gabi, and Frenkie de Jong that cooked. If you guys remember that game where Joao Felix scored that goal at Montjuic, I remember that game like it was yesterday, but Barca's midfield cooked and it was those three guys. Maybe Hansi Flick wants to do that. I don't know, but we know that Gabi, he was away for a year. People forgot about him, but he obviously came back last season. And I think that he has so much quality. He's such an amazing player. I think Gabi will once again be pivotal to the squad. He was pivotal to the team under Xavi. And like I said, this preseason, I saw that version of Gabi. I saw the version of Gabi that's fighting for the ball. I saw a version of Gabi that's really good in front of goal, that can finish. I saw a version of Gabi that is very technically gifted, because people look at Gabi as this angry chihuahua who runs around the pitch and does nothing. Gabi's very technically gifted. Technically gifted, he's very technically gifted. He's not Pedri, but he comes from the Masia. So, that's not a problem for him. So, I think Gabi will once again be pivotal to the squad. That is my fourth takeaway from Barca's preseason. Number 5, Lamine and Rafina are picking up where they left off. They're picking up right where they left off. And the biggest concern for me was never Lamine Yamal, because Lamine Yamal, he's kind of carrying the momentum that he had towards the latter end of last season. You know what I mean? Like in March, April, May, Lamine Yamal was amazing, and he carried that over to the Nations League, and now he's carrying it over to the preseason, and I believe he's going to carry it over to the actual season. Rafina was the one that I was kind of concerned about, because Rafa, like we've talked about multiple times already, and people have pointed out, me and other people as well, Rafa was kind of, we saw him after the international break. We were kind of scared, and we're like, oh, is Rafina, is he not good anymore? What happened? I don't think anybody thought he wasn't good anymore, but we were like, oh, what's happening with Rafina? And now we're seeing him in the preseason. Again, it's preseason, but we've seen the same Rafina we were so accustomed to seeing last season. A guy who, on his day, is the best player in the world, arguably, who can just put up goals for fun, who's so active on the pitch. I love that Lamine and Rafina are cooking once again. They're cooking in the preseason. Their partnership has always worked so well together. I love that, what I'm seeing from these two guys, man. I love what I'm seeing. There's a lot of standouts in the preseason. I think, Gabi, like I said, I thought Frenkie de Jong had a good preseason. I thought Balde had a great preseason. A lot of guys, Marcus Rashford, but these two guys really stood out to me. Two guys that, we know how good they are, but we're like, oh, can they continue that same, can they continue it from the previous year? You know what I mean? Because a lot of times when I don't want to say these guys are unknowns, but Rafina having this season out of nowhere, you know what I mean? Because Rafina had been good, but he never had this production. And Lamine kind of bursting, because Lamine was also good last year, but this year was really his breakout year after the Euros. You kind of think in your head, can they continue it? Because let's just say with Messi and Neymar, you don't think about that because they've been good for so long. You just know they're going to keep doing what they're doing. But with two guys who are fairly new, you kind of wonder, okay, they did it one season, can they do the next one? And I think we're seeing right now that they can do it this season as well. So I'm really excited to see that. I cannot wait to see how these guys, I cannot wait to see their numbers at the end of the year. I think these guys are gonna I think they're gonna take over Europe. I honestly believe that, but I don't want to jinx it. But I love what I saw from both of these guys in the preseason. Yesterday, Lamine Yamal against Como was amazing. Against Dago, he was ridiculous. Rafina scoring goals, assisting, getting his teammates involved, being a leader on the pitch as well. Love it. Anyway, next one, number 6. This is one negative. Obviously, we can't have all positives. Some negatives came out of the preseason, believe it or not. And number 6 is the back line could be our downfall again. And obviously, I have in the picture Cubarsi and Araujo, who I believe are going to be our two main center backs now that Inigo left. It used to be Inigo and Cuba. Like I said, Inigo's off to Saudi, to Al Nassr. So now it's Araujo and Cuba. I still believe in Araujo. I believe he's going to have a really, really good year. I like what I saw yesterday from him against Como. His ability to play from the back, his last-ditch tackling, he's always been good at that. So I believe in Araujo. But I think that if this Barca team, if we're sitting here in June of 26 and we're talking about why Barca didn't win the UCL, I think it's going to be the same as last season. It's not going to be because of the goals. It's going to be because the back line let us down. And I think against Inter, the back line really let us down. People want to blame it all on Araujo. Barca conceded 7 goals through 2 legs. Araujo wasn't on the pitch for all 7 of those goals. So other players had fault in those goals as well. So, in this preseason, I saw sometimes where teams were catching us out with that high line. That's always dangerous. If Barca lose the ball in a dangerous position, we know the opposition, if they know how to, if they know where they are on the pitch and they're well coached, they can play some combinations, get out of it, and immediately be out on the break. And Barca left exposed every single time because, again, you're playing this high line because you want to score as many goals as possible. But I believe that, Hansi Flick knows what he's doing. He's coaching these guys right. But I don't think Araujo is as good as I know Araujo is not as good as at the high line as Inigo was. So that's going to be something that's going to concern me early on. If Barca do end up not doing as well, I think it's going to be because of that. Also, Inigo's ability to play with his feet. Araujo doesn't have that. So there's a lot of things that Inigo Martinez had that Barca are going to be missing, but I still believe that Barca are going to cook. But again, you have one injury to one of these guys and you're bringing in Christensen, and then if one of those guys gets a knock, then you have really nobody else. You have Eddie Garcia, but then you're thin everywhere else because you're trying to have guys, compromise and play a position that they're not used to playing, or it's not their natural position. So everything once one guy goes down, everything it's out of whack because, like I said, if you don't have enough depth, it's a pain in the ass. So number 6 is that, yes, even though the preseason was great, I think the back line could be our downfall once again. And then finally, on my 7th and final takeaway from the preseason was, La Masia remains undefeated. La Masia remains undefeated. And we saw it again this preseason. Jofre Torrens, Dro, Guille Fernandez, the other Fernandez, I forget his name, but La Masia is really one of a kind. It is truly one of a kind. And that is the only reason why Barca are not completely irrelevant right now is because of La Masia. And all those guys might not get playing time right away. Jofre's not going to get playing time over Valde right away. Guille Fernandez is not going to get playing time right away. A lot of these guys are not going to get playing time right away. Dro might not get playing time right away because obviously Fermin and Ormo will play his position too. But what we saw from the few La Masia players that made cameos in this preseason, I was super impressed by. And that is, again, the reason why Barca are still relevant and still, right now, one of the best clubs in Europe is because of La Masia. So I was super happy to see those guys get cameos in the preseason, see them play, see the way that, Hansi Flick is instilling that trust in them. We still have, obviously, Casado and Bernal, most notably Bernal, who missed basically all of last season. But when he played in those, first 2 or 3 games, he was amazing. So I think La Masia is going to have a huge impact on the team once again this season like it did last season, because with Barca, La Masia always has an impact. But yeah, man. Those are my 7 takeaways from Barca's preseason. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Please let me know your takeaways from the preseason. Check out the final thread. The link is in the description down below. I always promote my brand, of course, because it's my brand. We're going to come out with new designs. We've got a Messi one and then Lamine Yamal and Neymar one that you guys have seen before. That's my boy one. Both of those designs are coming out hopefully this week. I keep saying they're going to come out this week. I'm dealing with the manufacturer. It's a pain in the ass, but they should be coming out this week. I'll obviously announce it when that's out, so you guys can obviously be on the lookout for that. But yeah, man, let me know your thoughts about the preseason down below. Let me know what you're most excited for in the season. Once the season starts, what you're most excited for. And yeah, man, I love every single one of you. Check out, by the way, the post that I did for the reacting to your football hot takes. I'm gonna release that video soon, probably on Wednesday or Thursday, one day this week, later on this week. So check it out. Leave your hot take there. A lot of you guys always ask me, where do I leave my hot take? I'm telling you right now, if you're watching until the end of the video, that means you're a loyal viewer. Go to my community tab post. It's right there, and you guys can check it out. But yeah, man, I love you, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.